loud. Okay.
Excellent. We good?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I do appreciate you taking the time in this Friday afternoon before a holiday to meet with us. Our hope is today that we can, if you have questions, that you share those questions. Our hope is that this is going to be more of a conversation over the hour that we have scheduled. Definitely, if there's things that come up during the meeting, please feel free to raise your hand. And we'd love to talk about them at that time. So just a brief introduction. APA Utah has been working on our bylaws for the last 18 months at least. We started the process in 2023, 2024, and had worked on some revisions of the bylaws. Earlier this year, we took on a more targeted effort in revising those bylaws and including having conversations about the structure of the organization. The APA Utah board, we agreed and brought in a nonprofit consultant and identified a task force, a small group of board members to take on the bylaws efforts and kind of talk through the challenges we're seeing, the opportunities that we have to improve, and develop a plan to move those, to take advantage of those opportunities and to really move the organization forward. And what we've laid out, there's been a couple emails. We have the website up outlining the new bylaws and the handbook. Those are a result of those efforts. There's been, I think in the email we may have said 200 hours. I think that is a underestimate of the amount of time and energy and effort that's been put in by the APA Utah board, by Nikki, the nonprofit consultant. APA National has reviewed our bylaws. We also have had a legal review and an attorney review the bylaws as well to create what it is we're presenting now. Megan and I did a presentation at Spring Conference to kind of introduce this, and we did get some great feedback from that, which we've incorporated. We do have the website up to take feedback if you have questions or concerns on the bylaws and the handbook currently. And the process that we're looking to move forward with is we're doing this outreach. We're presenting the bylaws. The board voted to move forward with the bylaws and present them to the APA Utah membership. So we're doing this outreach from really the month of August and into September. And then we will have an election in September for the membership, whether or not to adopt these new bylaws, these amended bylaws. So that's the reason we're here, is to talk about the bylaws and the handbook and the process we've gone through. So I hope you have questions. We do have, just to point out those that helped on the task force. Nikki was on the task force. Scott Hill on this meeting, in the meeting, he was on the task force. Megan Booth, who's here, was on the task force. Taylor Jensen, as a board member, has reviewed these, and we've had discussion with it. Brian Carver also as a board member, and David Rogers. All as board members have reviewed these and offered questions and feedback through the process. But we are looking to gain a better understanding of if there's concerns, if there's questions, to kind of talk through and walk through those today. So I think maybe I will get started real quick as you guys are getting your questions ready to go. I am going to start with a couple of the questions that were already posted. And my screen, there we go. All right, can you guys see my the APA Utah screen? All right. So, and I maybe will put this in the chat for those of you that maybe haven't seen it. We put together a website that has the governing documents, the handbook, and the new bylaws. And we're looking to build this out as we move forward. The nice thing about this is it's easily accessible. Everybody can see it. So if you have questions, you can go there. It's also, we're hoping to make it easier. We can organize it a little easier with links so that as you're going through it, you have a question, you can open up in a new tab or pop over to the next section. And so we're hoping to build this out in our efforts to become more visible, more transparent in what it is we're doing and how things are operating. So we do have the governing documents, our bylaws and articles of incorporation. And then the big change I think we are looking to adopt and implement is a handbook, which outlines the board and chapters policies, guidelines, structure, the way things work, the way things operate, so that the membership, the board, those that are interested can see how things operate and what the responsibilities are and who's doing what, who's responsible for what. So we spent quite a bit of time on this handbook. I can't tell you how many iterations, how many versions there have been.
Emma made her first map.
Pardon me? Oh, okay. So Megan really started the effort in consolidating a lot of the information that we'd had into creating a handbook. And then working through the process and with our nonprofit consultant Kelly to be able to create this handbook that we have here today. So a couple of the questions, maybe we'll just start with the questions that have been submitted already. One of them has, actually two of them are questions about the board and how the board will work, how many elected directors there are. So one of the things that, as we went through the bylaws, especially the state code, we felt it was important to clarify the roles as far as having a board of directors with elected board members. And then there are certain officers, which per state code and corporate law, directors and officers have slightly different roles, although there are positions that can fill both of those roles. And we are proposing 3 officers, the president, vice president, and then the student representative would also be an officer. Our bylaws and the board handbook provide some flexibility on the number of directors. And the reason we're doing that, the reason we wanted to have this flexibility is to allow for the organization to change and to grow over time, so that when it comes, if we decide, and we really need to add another director position, rather than having to go back and amend the bylaws, we've added and built in this flexibility. So in section 3.3, the board composition, so a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 13 elected positions. And they will also serve as committee chairs, and I can get into that organization in just a second as far as the committee chairs. But then I think the next sentence is important. Currently, APA Utah will have 7 directors. So the idea is that we will have 7 elected positions that serve on the board, and all of those positions will be elected. In our current organization, we have 4 elected positions. We have treasurer, secretary, president, and vice president. And the idea is to open up the opportunity for more of the membership to be involved through the election process, and to allow more, I guess, an equitable opportunity to serve on the board through the election process. So that was one of the questions. I hope that answers, if those individuals that asked the question, I hope that answers it. If not, again, feel free to raise your hand at any time through this. So the next question that was asked does have to do with actually, maybe I'm gonna pop over to, so the way this works, we have the handbook with parts 1 through 5. It's kind of a brief explanation of the way things work. And then we have these appendices which go into greater detail on the roles, responsibilities, and the detail. And so, for example, we were just looking at the board structure and process, but Appendix 3 also deals with the general responsibilities of the board. Appendix 2 is the organization chart and structure. And I think this might be helpful as we get into the next question, which was about one of the specific task forces that we're looking to adopt. So what we've proposed, what we've talked about, is really creating several different groups. Right now we have committees, and a committee defines everything. We have the awards committee, the membership committee, legislative committee. And as we talked through the process, it felt like there's different roles that these groups play and different responsibilities, different timeframes that they're active. And so the idea that we landed on was having really 3 different groups. One being committees, which in essence are standing committees that focus on an area of the chapter's responsibility. And those we've talked about, we've included the partners and affiliates committee. So a committee to work on our partnerships and relationships with other organizations. Our administrative and finance committee. This is a committee that's going to focus on our finances, our budgeting, as well as the administration side of things, and making sure we're filing things with the state, we're filing things, our tax documents, our contracts that we're entering into, that's kind of that group's responsibility, more of the operational side of the chapter. And then we have our professional development and programs committee. So focusing on the programming that we provide, the webinars we provide, the conferences we provide, that sort of thing. A legislative committee focusing on our legislative and advocacy efforts, both in the state and at the national level. And then communications committee, focusing on the chapter's communications with our membership, as well as with the broader state and stakeholders within the state. And then our membership committee, focusing on our members' needs, incoming members, AICP, new AICP members, just really trying to create that, doing a better job of focusing on the relationship the chapter has with individual members. And then we also have a past presidents committee, which is a committee made up just of the past presidents of APA Utah. So that's a separate committee that the current past president will chair, and they have a lot of free reign and opportunity to focus on projects that are important to them or needs that are identified by the chapter. They obviously have unique resources with it being a group of past presidents of the chapter. So those are the committees. That's kind of the first level of these groups. beyond the committees, we have task forces. And the task force is intended to be very specific. Have a very specific task that they work on. And it may only be a group and exist for 3 months out of the year or 6 months out of the year. It really depends on the task force and the task they have at hand. So we have a FAICP task force. So that task force will work with those that are eligible for FAICP and help them prepare for and submit what's needed for that nomination. Our conference task force, those are the ones that beyond the professional development committee that are focused just on the conference and making sure our conferences are successful. Awards task force, again, they are focusing just on the awards portion of our chapter's efforts. And we have several of the others, the nominating task force, the audit task force, and sponsorship task force. Beyond the committees and the task forces, we have engagement groups. And the engagement groups are groups that are focused on a specific group or interest. So engagement groups would include things like transportation planners, women in planning, groups that have a similar interest and want to have events, want to have funding available to support them in those events, in those gatherings. And it's not just a social event. There's also, for example, the AICP prep would be an engagement group. So a group of individuals that are working together to prepare for the AICP test. So young professionals, students, those are all engagement groups. And the engagement groups, they can drive what the committee is doing and what task force are doing. But the idea is to be able to provide that venue and a lot of flexibility for new ones to come on board, for those interest groups, those engagement groups, for individuals to meet together. We also see the region reps chairing kind of an engagement group for their region as well. So the region reps in the regions would be an engagement group, which also provides some flexibility, as that's one of the things that we've seen, that our areas for our area reps really need some boundary changes and some flexibility. And so this is an easy way, rather than having to adopt whole new bylaws, to be able to adjust those boundaries. So additionally, within this structure, so the board structure, there is the president, which is elected, vice president elected, 7 elected directors, and then the student representative, who would be appointed, not elected, and then the past president as an ex officio member. So, and we've identified these committees, these 7 different committees, as well as the executive support team that helps on the admin side, with Nikki as executive manager, a bookkeeper, web services, tax professional, and social media. So that's the idea of the structure. And I think some of the feedback we've heard are concerns about it being complex. And it is a transition. There's a bit of a paradigm shift, I think, from where we are now. However, I think my take, and I'm happy to open the floor to others as well if they'd like to share their opinion, their perspective. But my take is this change in structure allows the organization to grow, but it also allows it to function more effectively and efficiently with clear roles, clear responsibilities, and a lot more opportunity for those that want to be involved and being able to identify specific places to be involved in specific tasks or responsibilities to take on. And so I feel like, yes, it is a bit more complex, but at the same time, I don't feel like it. I feel like it's effective and efficient and important for an organization to have a clear structure, to have clear responsibilities, and to think forward as we're growing and as we want to grow, and to allow that flexibility and those options to grow into different areas. Any thoughts? Any questions so far? All right. Again,
Actually, Jason, I do have a quick question.
please.
And perhaps this is described in more detail later, but how is the process about which the student representative is appointed? 'Cause I know that there was some kind of ambiguity around that before, and I was wondering if that had been kind of ironed out with this refinement.
And Tanner, I apologize. My speakers may not be working well. Which specific portion did you feel there was ambiguity around?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
I think so.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, the student representative, I was wondering if in the restructuring there was more kind of clarity around how that like process was to appoint student representative. And like who qualified, I guess, that as well. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, excellent, Tanner. I appreciate you asking that question as somebody that has served on the board in a role, and I think kind of had questions. So I feel like we have added some clarity to that. One, the student rep is a member of the board. It is required by national APA that we have a student representative on the board. We have outlined specifically the process for that position to be filled, in that it does come through our nomination committee, that they work with the universities and the students to try to find student representatives, that are interested, that will want to serve and have the opportunity, the time in their schedule, desire to serve. And then they present those that are interested to the board, and for the board to nominate and to identify who that is. We are still working out a lot of the specifics when it comes to the task force and engagement groups. So beyond just the being on the board, the student representative would also chair the student engagement group and work on events and training opportunities, programming with our programs committee for that engagement group, to help them engage with the students and to move forward our efforts there.
And I'll just add on that is going to be separate from the efforts that Mackenzie has been working on, just to make that distinction.
Okay, cool. That was going to be my next question. And is that position open to undergrads, or is it just reserved for graduate students? Is there a specification on that?
We did open it up to all students engaged and enrolled in the university here in Utah.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yep. Yeah, and I do appreciate the question, the interest in the in Mackenzie's work and what's been going on with the internship program. So some of you may not be aware, Mackenzie Johnson, who serves on the board, has been working on, with the help of Chris Hupp, a mentorship program to help new incoming planners have a mentor and have the opportunity. I may have said internship, but mentorship program to connect those that are interested in providing guidance, providing help, providing assistance, and those wanting to, that are new in the role, new in the field to understand. And so we do have this young professional group, which would be an engagement group, but our mentorship program is under our professional development programs and committees. So that's one area that they are going to be focusing on to make sure that those efforts continue and expand.
Jason? Let me just give another perspective to those on the call. Again, I have the opportunity to serve on this governance task force, and as he indicated, lots of time and effort was put into this process under the guidance of a consultant that really was helpful. I've only been on the board for 2 years and fairly new to the group, but come with a lot of background in nonprofit organizations. And I can tell you that this process was a process of a lot of discussion. We did not see eye to eye at the beginning, and we truly had to work through why we needed change and the direction we needed. But I can tell you from the very get-go, it was all about making a better organization for APA Utah. As we look at the structure, we want to grow participation at the leadership level. And sometimes in the planning world, we're so busy, we don't have enough staffs in the community that we serve in. And so taking on additional pieces to grow the state organization can be very difficult. And so we needed to have clarity. And I think, as we go through the handbook, there is so much more clarity. You can look at a job description and understand the time commitment and the direction it needs to go. As we look at the board, we're going to have a little more longevity in that group, 3-year staggered terms, but it's going to allow us to have continuity for a longer period. Then as we go to the committees, we see 2-year staggered terms. And again, we've got a lot more participation at the committee level. And then as we get down to the task force, as Jason indicated, 1-year terms, and some of those are purpose served and some of them are long-term commitments. And then the engagement is as needed. And so we've talked about, for the students and for learning, we talk about the volunteer liaison so that we can involve more of our planning commissioners throughout the state. That will be an engagement group. And it gets us away from the structure so that we can really be focused on the areas of expertise that those engagement groups have. And so it's different. It's different than many of the nonprofit groups I've been on. But as we work through this and we put our past aside and say, what do we want to look for? What do we want to look for in the long run? What do we want to accomplish? We want to serve our members. We want to have more participation. We want to be more reactive and not have to wait for board meetings. And so a lot of things are going to be found in the handbook. So from my perspective, there's a lot of understanding and trying to feel comfortable with where we went or where we're planning on going. But I can support where we're going 100%. I feel very comfortable at looking at the APA Utah structure and saying, I think it's going to serve us for many, many, many years. And I would also indicate that I think we're going to become a chapter that other chapters are going to look at and say that is something that we ought to take a look at. We will pave the way, but I think many others will follow. And again, Jason and Megan and Nikki, thanks for their leadership in just helping us get through some of these old ways of doing it and trying to bring ourselves into a newness of where we are headed. So with that, I just wanted to share just a few comments from that perspective.
Thank you, Scott. Mike, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, echoing Scott's comments, on many items that he brought up. This is a different structure, but it's not unprecedented. There are many nonprofit organizations, corporate or otherwise, that are set up in this direct, election of board members. And having that be the structure, and then they fill specific roles as they move through or are either selected by the board into senior positions or leadership positions, or they're directly voted in these positions. And so it's not that like this is a new idea, it's tried and tested. Based on how this is set up, I believe it will be a better setup in the long run for the organization.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that this provides, as we've worked on, as planners, we work on projects that we see a master plan, and a master plan and the detail it provides is much different than a building permit. And I think what we've tried to capture is a master plan for the direction we want to go. There are still additional details needed that we're going to work through as things come up. I know Vicky gets tired of me hearing about having the checklist and having a specific outline for a task that we do. But what this provides is it provides that master plan for us to build out as an organization to make things much more effective and efficient as we move forward. And I think the other piece that Scott kind of touched on, that the opportunity for more people to be involved at the board level through the election process. We also, one of the driving factors, and this goes back to Tippy, and Tippy did a great job of setting the foundation through her presidency of setting the foundation for this work. And one of the things that was important to her and important to me as well is really being able to elevate and recognize those individuals that serve on the board, but also the volunteers that are involved in our committees, in our task forces, and the leadership that we have top to bottom. And elevating that, I think, really starts with the ability to identify. And I think, and I'm excited for this structure and the clarity in the structure so that we can take those opportunities to really elevate and promote. And it becomes an important opportunity, an important role that those volunteers are filling through this organization. So all right, so one, I guess we can go back to the questions that have been submitted. There was another one about the nominating task force, and I think the name is a little deceiving in that the nominating task force is not necessarily a vetting. It's not that it's their responsibility to weed out those that run for election. Rather, the nominating task force responsibility is to drum up interest in those that are in the positions that are open, so that we can identify candidates and encourage candidates to run for those positions, and also to help educate those that are seeking to run in what the role and responsibilities they will be filling. It is not their responsibility to determine whether or not somebody who has an interest can or or should run. Rather, it's their responsibility to help identify candidates and to help the candidates understand the role that they're looking to fill. We do and anticipate having a wide swath of individuals run for board positions. And we in no way, shape, or form are looking to discourage anyone from an opportunity to serve at a leadership level or a volunteer level within the organization. So it definitely is a role to help support those who are interested. They're not gatekeepers in any way, shape, or form. Yes, and those that have the chat, Megan, thank you for your comments. I agree that it helps the resiliency of our organization. Any other questions or items we want to discuss? Valerie, I see you have your hand up.
Hello. Okay, so this is probably just my own ignorance then. So the structure before wasn't this formal then, right? Because like I kind of, and I'm sorry, I've not been, on the boards or anything like that. So I guess I just had assumed that there was already kind of this structure in place. So
Yeah. Let me pull up, see if I can find it. I thought I had it pulled up, but now I'm not seeing it. So one of the concerns that, maybe that's where we should have started.
I'm sorry, I just coming in.
No,
I'm like way late
You're-
to the game, but I'm glad you have this because like it's helped to bring things into a format that I can digest quickly, and just kind of know what the changes were. And thank you for all of you guys' work on having to structure nonprofits. This is no easy task.
yes. So we do, one of the biggest changes, the biggest challenges that we face as I'm looking for, so Megan and I did a presentation at Spring Conference. And that's what I thought I had it pulled up, but I'm having a hard time finding it. So I will talk as I'm finding it.
You're fine.
One of the struggles we face as the board, our bylaws right now are very explicit and specific on items. So for example, I mentioned the region reps. The region rep boundaries and the number of region reps are explicitly identified in the bylaws. And so anytime we want to adjust those, we need to change the bylaws, which requires going to the membership to have them vote to approve changing that. The other issue is that there are standing committees identified in the bylaws. There's also discrepancies in our current bylaws as far as who is on the board and who is a voting member. So currently it identifies the board members as being committee chairs, president, vice president. But then the region rep portion of the bylaws says, oh, by the way, anything the board votes on, they can also vote on. And so, yes, we do have a structure.
You do. It was too specific
yes.
in ways. Like it was not working. Instead of working, like you said, it looks great of how you're able to have it more evolve as it needs to without being so prescribed. You guys are able to now have a framework that then can function more efficiently and just as better. So without all this extra red tape and stuff you're having to go back to. So okay, well that helps answer my question because like, wait, it was kind of already set up this way. No, this now makes perfect sense. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, no, and that's I guess the other piece, just to kind of bookend this. The items, most of the things we've talked about today are in the handbook, and the handbook is separate from the bylaws. The bylaws provides a general structure. So like, for example, those ranges, and I can go over to the bylaws. The bylaws, I mean, there's definitions, It talks about our general membership, who we are, and there's a lot of legalese in here, because we had, APA National and an attorney go through it to make sure we're meeting the corporate nonprofit, provisions and state code. But our officers are identified, our board members are identified, but generally everything else, the exact structure, the exact roles are found in the handbook, which allows the board to make adjustments to how the organization functions, and be responsive to our members in a much easier way than we currently have.
Cool.
So,
Thank
excellent
you.
question.
This is
Thank
this
you.
is exciting. This is really cool. Thanks.
And I'm gonna stop sharing real quick because I know it's gonna bug me until I can find the presentation Megan and I gave. Are there any other questions? Comments?
While you're looking for that, Jason, I'll just talk a little bit. So, really, the bylaws were supposed to be updated and changed back before the pandemic happened. So I was working with Tippy on just like a tree structure top down. And then when Jason was elected, we realized we did have legal issues with our bylaws, and these were pointed out by Mike as well. And so we really wanted to just make sure if we have any legacy, it's getting this all organized and fixed for a while. But we also wanted to open it up to the membership. And something we heard is that they want to be able to elect the president and vice president because that dictates so much the direction of the chapter. So that is why there's kind of this structure where you still have the president and vice president as elected leadership positions. And then we have board members at large. That also allows us some flexibility to move people into positions that more in line with their interests or their capacity. That's kind of been an issue where, when someone would first take on a board seat or a chair position, they would have more capacity. And as time went on, maybe they didn't. So this definitely allows us a framework to ebb and flow. So yeah, that's what I'll add.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I hope we're able to communicate the amount of time and energy and effort that went into this. That this has been a long-standing identified need of the organization, and it's been a long-standing area that the board and the leadership has focused on. And we're at a position now where we feel pretty confident and comfortable that yes, there are some changes that we're proposing, but we feel very confident and comfortable in what's being proposed to the membership. So I will share for those of you that I found it finally. For those of you interested in our current organization and some of the questions we have, and this is a little dated. So for example, our standing committees, we had a small cities committee, a webmaster committee, legal, technology, sustainability committee. So these were all standing committees created in the bylaws that we did not have people filling in positions filled. There were also issues with the bylaws identifying 5 regions, 5 areas. But we've been utilizing, and rightfully so, we've made changes and adapted to the needs of of our membership. In utilizing 8 different regions as opposed to just 5. So, yeah. Those are some of the challenges that we faced as we reviewed the current bylaws. Any other questions?
Jason, apologies for being late to the meeting. My apologies.
Hey,
Hello. Thank you for
hello,
all your,
Bruce.
thank you for all your work. Really appreciate it. And Megan as well and others. As Valerie asked her question, it sort of prompted a sort of response in my mind as a way of looking at this. The bylaws, in my mind, are like the ordinance structures for a municipality. They set the laws of the community, and that's what we've got to follow. But sometimes we do things by resolution as well. And the handbook, for me, is equal to a resolution that can be easily amended and changed as needs change or as times change or context changes, etc. So that's the way I've been thinking about it, Jason and others, that the bylaws are the ordinance and then the handbook is the resolution material that we can change and respond and make adjustments and be responsive as things change within the organization. That's the only comment I have, Jason. Thank you.
Bruce, thank you. I think that's a perfect analogy that we have an ordinance that creates the general law of the organization, but we don't want it to be too specific as we recognize flexibility is needed. That you know, in your communities, you see properties are different, and so we allow different processes for them to go through the review and approval process. And I think, yeah, as Bruce stated, the resolution process that adds that flexibility and the ability to address specific issues at a specific time and make changes is vital for us as an organization to be able to have and utilize. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I would encourage all of you.
Jason, it may be helpful just as next steps. Could you sort of articulate those for us? And maybe I missed it. My apologies.
No, you didn't miss it because I was just about to get there. So excellent. So the next steps. We are still within our public comment period or outreach period. So we have, as I mentioned before, we have received comments and feedback on the bylaws. And there were some edits that we've actually made in this process. There were some typos and some errors to add clarification. So thank you for those. Please feel free to continue that. Nikki, do you have that link handy for the survey? Because I know I put the bylaws in the chat as far as that online website. So Nikki will post the page if you have comments or questions. If you leave an email address, we can contact you. If you want it to be anonymous, that's fine as well. We will take it into consideration. So the next steps are, we anticipate this going out, the bylaws, just the bylaws, going out to the membership for an election for approval, ratification between September 13th and 23rd. So that would be the next step, is the bylaws need to be reviewed and voted on by the members. If the members support what the board has provided, then we will open up nomination for the new board positions between October 3rd and October 17th. And the conference falls within that as well. So we'll be able to be there if you're interested. This is just the opportunity. If you're interested in serving on the board, submit your name. And then we'll have additional elections for those that are interested in serving on the board. At the end of October to the beginning of November. November. And then those that are elected, as well as those remaining that have been elected, will have the executive retreat and leadership transition either the end of November, early December. We're still working on the timeline for that. So there's a lot of moving parts. We're trying to do this by the end of the year so that we can start fresh next year, is the idea. As well as, and just so you're aware, if the revised bylaws are not approved by the membership, then we will still have the election process, but the election process will be for a secretary and then a treasurer under our current bylaws, because those positions that David and Mike are filling, those are up for election. And so we will have elections, individual board elections later this year. It just depends on what those positions are based on the bylaw elections. Bruce, does that help you understand the next steps?
Yes, it does, Jason. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you for Nikki for posting that link again. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, please take a look. If you have questions, you don't just have to use the form. Feel free to reach out to anybody on the board. We do have our contact information on the website, or in the emails, the invitations here. I'm always happy to jump on a call or answer an email if you have questions or concerns. So we're so grateful and so lucky to have the membership that we have. I think that was something that continuously came up, and it was all of these conversations were about how can we better serve our members? How can we provide a better product to our members? And that's the ultimate goal of the board, is being able to support you in the work that you do, and know that you have an organization that's looking out for you and supporting you and providing those things that you need. So I'm immensely grateful for the opportunity to serve in the position that I am. And I know the other board members are grateful for that opportunity and your willingness to participate and be involved with this organization. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your holiday weekends. On that
Yes.
note, right?
Yeah.
Nothing like a conversation on bylaws to ease you into a Labor Day
Right into
weekend.
a long weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.